Obedience is better than sacrifice. Obedience is better than effectiveness. Obedience is better than results. Obedience is better than options. Obedience is better than excess. Obedience is better than numbers. Obedience is better than likes and follows. Obedience is better than the applause of men. Obedience is better than having seats at powerful tables. Obedience is better than having friends in high places. Obedience is better than the riches of this world. All of these things seem like what you want in life, but it's all a sacrifice. It is better to listen and to follow the will and the voice of the Lord than to try to prove yourself to the Lord by offering Him things He never asked you. There is a saying, the more the merrier, meaning the more of something, the better it is. And we all know that that is not true, even though in our carnal minds, the more seems to be the merrier. But biblically, we can see that this is not necessarily true. If God only asked you to give Him a piece of fruit, but you decide to go ahead and give Him the whole tree, some may think, wow, that person is very generous. And that may be so in man's eyes, but God would see it as disobedience because you sacrificed the more when He was only wanting your obedience. Because you see, God can see our motives, whether we do things out of pride, religiosity, repetition, self-ambition. Many times we just want to be fruitful and effective in life, in our relationships, on our jobs, and in our ministries. And sometimes this drive for fruit, this drive for results, this drive for effectiveness, this drive for more can cause us to get to a place where we are sacrificing and we do more than God has even required us to do, which can lead us to burnout, to frustration, and it can lead us to a really self-absorbed, prideful life. And this will not allow us to be obedient to Him. We worry and we weary ourselves with the production and the productiveness instead of obedience. Pleasing God is all in our listening and our obeying. In 1 Samuel 15, we see Saul is now king over Israel, and God has asked him to go to battle. And Saul takes the spoils and he takes the best and offers them to God as a sacrifice. But this displeased God because it was not his instruction. 1 Samuel 15, 19 through 23 says, "Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord?" "But I did obey the Lord," Saul said. "I went on a mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. The soldiers took sheep and cattle from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord, your God, at Gilgal." But Samuel replied, "Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much as in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, He has rejected you as king. It is better to obey the Lord than to sacrifice. Offer Him what He asked you, no more, no less, because the Lord knows our motives." And it sounds crazy to say that obedience is better than fruitfulness, but it's true. We all know that the Bible tells us that we are to bear fruit and to bear much fruit. But obedience is even better than fruitfulness because we could be bearing fruit that God never intended for us to bear. Obedience is better than fruitfulness. Obedience is better than effectiveness. Obedience is better than all of these things because we all know that effectiveness is based on our own personal standards, and our ways are not higher than God's. God's ways are higher than ours. We could be patting ourselves on the back for something that disappoints God. So to avoid this, we must follow His will and purpose as we heard Him speak it to our hearts and to our spirits, and He will be gracious enough in His leading and His guiding to direct us. We must be careful not to judge others by our own standards, but judge according to God's standards. Our standards will deem something good that God does not. So the encouragement for today is to listen and to obey the Lord's voice and His calling and His plan. And this is our prayer, that when we are obedient, let it be fruitful. When we are obedient, let it be productive. When we are obedient, let it be effective. It is better to obey than to sacrifice. God bless you.